What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be talking about visual recoil and how it's super important, why it's super important, and what attachments can help reduce visual recoil. And it's just going to be a general discussion video about visual recoil because it's something that isn't talked about very often, but I think is as important or more important than the actual recoil of the gun. So I wanted to cover it in a video just to explain a little bit more about it. But yeah, we'll jump into it here and I'll share my thoughts. So many months back, probably, I don't know when I posted it, probably 5 months ago, 4 months ago, towards the beginning of the channel actually, I made a video on like advanced recoil analysis, showing how much guns deviate from their expected path, basically a horizontal bounce measurement, their average climb rate, and things like that. And it came up with some unexpected results. And some of those results would be that the AMAX was basically like the most accurate or the least recoil gun of all of them. It had super consistent recoil pattern, very little horizontal bounce, and the overall average climb rate across the whole recoil pattern was pretty low. I think it was maybe the lowest even. And in practice, that's just not how it feels. So I have another gun here, the M4. The M4 was the opposite. The M4 came out having tons of horizontal bounce and had one of the highest climb rates of all the guns in the game. And to me, in practice, it doesn't feel like that. So with an M4, it feels super accurate to me compared to an AMAX. And it's not bad when you both have Commando foregrips, but the M4 just feels like an absolute laser to me. And I think that is mostly because of the visual recoil of the two guns. So again, I'm just going to talk more about that, what attachments help that. I just said what attachment helps it like 2 seconds ago, but yeah, let's jump into it and talk a little more about it. All right, so I wanted to compare some different attachment combinations on the AMAX, compare their visual recoil. So the attachment combinations are up on the screen right now, but I want to talk about them in order. So the first one has Zodiac barrel, 45 round mag, VLK optic, and then nothing else. And then the next to the right just adds a commando to that, and the next to the right after that removes the commando and adds muzzle brake. The next to the right after that adds a compensator and removes the muzzle brake. And then the next to the right after that removes the compensator and has no stock. So commando foregrip 100% is the best attachment in the game for reducing this hidden stat, this visual recoil stat. To me, the muzzle brake almost looks worse than the stock gun on the left. So the muzzle brake's in the center, stock's on the left. To me, the muzzle brake almost looks worse. So that's why I don't think this stat is actually... I don't think it's recoil stabilization. I don't think visual recoil is recoil stabilization. I think it's a hidden stat that they can toy or they can play with. And I think Commando foregrip helps with it, and I think it might be the only attachment in the game that helps with it. So going over to the compensator, the fourth video, it's interesting that with the compensator, the gun actually gets closer to your face. So these are all zoomed exactly the same amount in my video editing software. So in game, they're all scaled perfectly appropriately. So the compensator does make your optic bigger, and it does seem to hurt visual recoil. And muzzle brake, again, like I said, seems to hurt visual recoil as well. And then we know that no stock does. So no stock actually takes the gun further from your face. So your reticle is smaller, and the visual recoil is much more dramatic and bouncy. You can really see how the Commando foregrip makes most of the visual screen shaking just up and down, and the rest of them all have a lot of like almost like torsional wobble around the point where you're aimed. So there's a lot of smaller shaking with the muzzle brake and the compensator than there is with the Commando foregrip. So I really do think that muzzle brake and compensator might both actually hurt visual recoil a little bit. So one of the big reasons everyone uses affected, first of all, it makes it much easier to ADS up close when you're in a fight because there's much less zoom. So it really helps with SMGs when you ADS with SMGs for up close combat. But another thing that it does that is not talked about very often is it dramatically reduces the visual recoil, how much your screen is shaking and how easy it is to stay on target. Yes, you have much less zoom at range. So the left side here is independent, and the right side is 115 FOV with affected. And you can see that on the right side, it looks like there's way less shaking and way less violent shaking. And that just makes it a lot easier to visually see your target as you're shooting and keep your shots on target. It is a trade-off, though, because, like I said, you get a lot more zoom on the left, so you're zoomed in a lot more, but the combination of visual recoil reduction and assisting with up close combat, and also the reduction of effective recoil, which is something I've talked about in other videos in the past, like how much you actually have to move your mouse to correct for recoil because you're more zoomed out with affected. There's less effective recoil that you have to correct for, but it is a trade-off because you get more zoom. But the combination of those three things is why pretty much everyone on PC uses affected. The visual recoil difference is dramatic, and it makes guns that have a lot of recoil feel like they have very, very little recoil when you switch to affected. All right, so I went and did something interesting with the MP7. So on the left-hand side, I have an MP7 with no stock and a compensator, which results in basically a net zero change in recoil from the default MP7. And then on the right, it's just an MP7 with no attachments, and you can see it's basically much more violent on the left side with the no stock and compensator. The actual iron sight is bouncing around a lot more, and it's just out of control looking compared to the right side, where it's relatively stable and a little more smooth. And also on the left side, the no stock and compensator is bouncing around, like the whole screen is bouncing around a lot more, not just the iron sights. And also, you can see the no stock effect where the gun is just further from your face with no stock, which is weird, but it makes sense. I mean, you're holding it out away from you rather than having the butts of the stock up on your shoulder, so it makes a little bit of sense there. But it's strange the effect all these things have on visual recoil, and I still think it's a stat that is not really displayed anywhere in the game. And people who know the stats a lot might say, well, TrueGameData, the no stock and compensator both hurt your aiming stability a lot. So maybe it's aiming stability that's causing the weirdness in visual recoil. And I'll show you here in a second that it's not that. I'll show you a full aiming stability build right next to the MP7 with no attachments, and they'll look basically the same. But let's play this a couple times slow real fast. Alright, so this is the slowed down version. And you can see how much the iron sights are just bouncing around on the no stock and the compensator version compared to no attachments at all on the right. And it also shows how the screen is just overall shaking more on the left as well. Alright, I'll jump in and show you the aiming stability now versus no aiming stability. Alright, so the right side has full aiming stability. So tact laser, the aiming stability stock, tactical foregrip, and granulated grip tape. And the left side has no attachments at all. And you can see that the visual recoil is identical on both of these. They look no different whatsoever. Here, I'll slow it down. Let me slow this down for you real fast. And then play it some more. So you can just confirm that they're exactly the same. To me, I don't see any difference. You can make your own determination there, but to me, I don't really see any difference in visual recoil in any way. Screen seems to shake about the same. Iron sights seem about the same. So that's why I don't think visual recoil is related to aiming stability. So kind of as a quick summary here, I think visual recoil is hugely important. I think it's a big reason why a lot of people like affected more than independent on PC. I think there's only one attachment in the game that actually helps with it, and that's the Commando foregrip, which is one of the reasons why it's such a good attachment and why it's so popular on all long-range guns. It's another reason why Cold War guns aren't nearly as viable as the Modern Warfare guns at range, because they just don't have that attachment. They don't have anything. The Field Agent grip does not seem to have the same effect as the Commando foregrip in terms of visual recoil. I think the Field Agent grip physically does shrink in the recoil plot a little bit, left to right, but I don't think it has the same effect on visual recoil. I think the muzzle brake and the compensator both actually hurt visual recoil, even though the muzzle brake says it has recoil stabilization, which is why I think recoil stabilization is not directly visual recoil. I think they have something else hidden that they tweak for visual recoil. Um, and yeah, I think visual recoil is extremely important, and it's weird that we don't have any stats on that. It's clear that no stock hurts it a ton too, by the way, because no stock makes your visual recoil out of control and crazy. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys an example of all those different attachments so you can make your own decision, because you can't really quantify visual recoil. Like I can't say for sure that the muzzle brake hurts it. It just looks like it does to me and feels like it when I use the gun. So I just wanted to show you. You can make your own decisions about these things, but that's my opinion. There's some hidden stat for visual recoil that they don't tell us about in any of the stats in the game. Another thing to mention is I get asked all the time why I don't have those climb rate numbers from my old video, which my old video will be linked here, so you guys can go check it out if you haven't seen it. But I get asked why I don't have those hard recoil numbers on the site, and this is a big reason why, because the AMAX came out as one of the lowest recoil guns, but in practice it feels like it has a lot of recoil and it's really hard to control. The M4 came out as one of the most recoil guns, and it feels like a super controllable, easy to control gun for me. So I just think there's something else to it, and I think it's mostly the visual recoil, and that's why I haven't put hard recoil numbers on the website, because I think they would be misleading. I think it would be misleading to say the AMAX has the least recoil of all the ARs, just because, I mean, in practice it does not feel that way, and a lot of people can confirm that they agree with me there, that it just does not feel like it has low recoil. But I just wanted to explain that. That's why it's not on the site. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something new. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you dislike it, give it a dislike and tell me why you didn't like it. Subscribe for more content like this in the future, and I hope you guys all have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.